What up? What up, y'all? It's another Friday night, and you're here with your boys. You might have seen me before, heard of me a little bit. It's your boy Cool McCain, half of the dynamic duo in the building, Tag Team Champs Interactive Sports Talk. You know who it is. And I'm joined as always by the other half of this fantabulous dynamic duo. That be this guy on my side.
Me, your boy Stephen Box, and cool man. Just in case they maybe forgot, want to remind them who we are.
We certainly can do that.
The Play Callers.
So, good people far and near. As always, there's a lot going on within the world of sports. We're here with you for an hour, so unfortunately, we don't get a chance to go over every single thing, but we're going to hit on some high points. And one of those, of course, is going to be the fact that one Caitlin Clarke made the decision before senior day, as she said she wanted to do, that she's going to be going to the WNBA next year. So I have a question for that. So the question is, we know she's going. We understand why she's going. I know you're not as much into the college basketball, but I think you understand the impact of who she is and what she'll bring. Almost everybody knows about this, at least this specific person. So do you think that other contemporaries will follow her to the WNBA? Or do you think a lot of people may stay in college, another year, if they have eligibility? How do you think that's going to play out? Because we know that on the other side, we had Paige Buechers, who's been one of the highly touted prospects. But she's had some injuries, so she's been out a couple of years, at least parts of the season, I would say. So she's coming back to try to have that season where, she gets to play the entirety of the season and show everybody how well she is. And also because you're not going to be the number one pick with Caitlin Clarke. So what are your thoughts on should other people, I'm not going to name anybody specifically, but do you think most of the other, ladies who have eligibility should stay? Or do you think they should go? Or do you think it's just going to be a mixture?
I mean, I feel like it really kind of comes down to individuals, right? Where every single person is going to be a little bit different. For some people, the opportunity to go ahead and go pro, ideally make a little bit more money than what they might make with NIL, it makes a lot of sense for them to go ahead and go, right? Especially if they're going to be, maybe like a top 2 or 3 pick. But at the same time, there's going to be these people, and we say this every year, even some of the people who do go, you look at their game and you go, they could have really benefited from an extra year, right? They could have developed a little bit more, got some extra reps in. So I think you really have to actually look at a question like that on an individual basis. I don't think that as a whole, that there's a right or wrong answer here, right? I'm not going to say if every single person who is eligible to go out this year decides to leave, I'm not going to say, oh, those people are wrong, they should have stayed. I mean, obviously, from the standpoint of college basketball, the longer you can keep your stars around, the longer that people are there developing their skills, the better the product's going to be. And the more excited it's going to be able to watch, because everyone would rather watch college teams that are full of juniors and seniors versus watching teams that are nothing but freshmen. So it's obvious that, it's good for the teams and good for college basketball for some of these people to stay. But just like we often say on the men's side of things, they have to take care of themselves first. They got to do what's right for them first and foremost.
Well, I'll say this. For a lot of the women, it doesn't make sense to stay. And the simple reason is you make more money with NIL in college than you do playing in the WNBA. They have obviously a cap that's set. They're not making the same type of money that a lot of these ladies can make in college, and this is unfortunate. They just don't generate as much. They don't have the same amount of sharing that the men get, which is what the argument has been about the WNBA for years. They're not asking for money like the men. They're asking for that same split. So, for instance, let's say, for argument's sake, somebody's going to say, oh, that's not 35%. Let's just say, for argument's sake, the men get 35%. based on what you hear, the women would probably be getting 15-20% of the share. So what that means is they're not making as much of the money that's being brought in, not as much dollar wise. So a lot of these ladies like Caitlin Clarke, Angel Reese, so on and so forth, they can make more money with their NIL deals in college than they could in the pros, which is why a lot of them put it off and stay 5 years. But Caitlin Clarke is in a unique position. Caitlin Clarke is going to be a game changer because what the next thing we'll talk about is she's 8 points away from setting the all-time record for points for men's or women's with catching Pistol Pete. She still has more to do to catch the season, but for all time, she's 8 points away, right? She plays in a game this weekend. I believe it's 1:00 on Sunday, if I remember correctly. So that's going to be an opportunity for her to break that record. And I'm sure she's going to score 8 points. She averages, I believe, it's either 20 to 30 points this year. No, it was 28 last year. I think it's like 30 or 32 this year. So she's going to have that opportunity. She's going to make that happen probably in the first quarter with less than 5 minutes gone by. But I think what she does can translate because she's transcended being a college or a pro player. And she's just someone that a lot of people who may not watch women's basketball, especially at the WNBA level, they can see her and say, okay, this young lady can play. She's a flat out hooper, right? Range, all those things. So hopefully she'll be able to draw other people in and help the game grow. Because the biggest thing with the WNBA, I've been saying this for a couple of years now, is growth, is bringing in new fans. So I always say this when I talk to people about the WNBA, right? If you have daughters, wives, sisters, cousins that are female, right? Why wouldn't you want them to have a place where they can see people who look like them? And it's not saying that they want to be an athlete, but just where you can have people who look like them being successful, being seen on TV, being good at their craft. Why would we not want to support that? And that's what's perplexing to me. But that's a whole nother discussion that we could have a whole show on. But I think Caitlin Clarke will make some changes to some of that and bring more eyes. So it makes more sense for those ladies that may not have that instant possible built-in success to stay in. And also, you're going to have a curve. So Caitlin going next year gives her the year to adjust. There's going to be an adjustment going from playing against college players to playing against WNBA players. So there's the other piece of that too. And I think some of the other ladies may want to stay and perfect their games. There may be a few that say, hey, I just want to get there and I want to be able to play. But I also want everybody to remember there's not as many teams, there's not as many roster spots. So you have to look at it and say, okay, if there's not as many teams, there's not as many roster spots, the more people that go. We've seen some really good ladies go to the WNBA, not even make teams because there's just not enough spots. So you have to look at that aspect as well, something different from the men's game. But I think for the most part, you'd want to stay until you exhaust your eligibility on the female side. But there are certain people who are going to leave before they exhaust their eligibility. And if we're talking about that, Caitlin Clarke makes sense, maybe a few others. But staying, developing, I think makes a lot more sense, especially on the women's side, with the limited number of professional spots that you even have available.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of left it vague, as in people have to do what's best for them, right? And I think you've raised a very good point, right? I mean, the NIL stuff, I'm kind of hit or miss on because I also look at it from the standpoint of a lot of those NIL deals that you signed, especially with like bigger companies, maybe that are more nationwide. Those companies are still going to be more than happy to invest in you for your NIL rights, because it's not just when you're in college, right? They're going to still be able to have contracts and deals with you even when you go professional. So I don't really think the money aspect of it is that huge of a deal for a lot of these ladies. Now, some of them, like you said, and I think again it's a very good point that you bring up, because the rosters aren't as deep, because there's not as many teams. you're risking going to the WNBA, kind of getting buried, and then your name not carrying as much weight. And so then maybe you start to lose some of those deals because you're not highlighted the same way you are in college. So that's where I say that every person does have to weigh that individually and kind of figure out what works for them.
Well, it's not just getting buried. A lot of these ladies are getting cut. We've had women that are dominating the college game or really playing really good roles. They're getting to the WNBA and they're getting cut because you're going to keep a rookie or you're going to keep a Diana Taurasi.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to keep a rookie, you're going to keep a Sue Bird. Like, we have that going on. And I'm not saying that it's the fault of those ladies or the younger players. I'm just saying a lot of times they're getting cut. It's not even we're on the bench. They're getting cut.
Yeah.
We got a couple of comments here from Chris. What's up, Chris? Chris says right behind you, right behind Clarke, you have players like Reese, Lyric, Swan, who are changing the landscape of women's basketball. Agreed. I guarantee you both of those ladies are going to stay in college. I bet you. And then he also says they also make more with NIL staying in school. Exactly.
I mean, like I said, some of them will, some of them won't. Some of them are going to still beat that money at the next level. So,
well, I'll tell you this. I've had several pieces that I have listened to or several comments that I've had the ladies make where they say, yeah, you make more money in college. They make more money overseas. They make the least amount of money in the WNBA.
But I would also go so far as to say that also depends on how you built your brand. And one thing that we've seen that's been a little bit different in the last couple of years is that a lot of these ladies have done a great job of building their own brands and making themselves more marketable versus in the past.
Those ladies are the ones that saying they're making more in college. The ladies you're talking about.
But they're still in college. They won't know until they get to the next level where they're making more money at.
No, sir.
Because they're not getting anything to be in college.
All right. So we're talking about ladies that were dynamic in college who went to the league. And they're talking about how, yeah, we want to go to the league and promote the league and help the league be better. But in order for us to really pay our bills, that's why all of these ladies play overseas. Because the amount of money they make in the WNBA is not enough money. They play here because they want to expand the game in the United States and get to the point where the women make that kind of money. But they don't now.
Well, if they were making more money with NIL in college, then they should have been able to translate over those deals to the pro level and still kept those endorsements. I don't think companies are just paying NIL money to college students.
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't know the intricacies of what's happening on the women's side with NIL, but if I'm trying to get you, if I'm a person that's helping with NIL and I'm trying to get people into the university that I'm a part of, so that university can be better. When you leave that university, I don't necessarily have to keep NIL with you. Like I said, I don't know the intricacies of all the NIL contracts, but a lot of those are being used as recruiting tools to get people to come to those universities. Same thing on the men's side.
Some of them are, but there's also a lot of independent companies that are also taking advantage of these opportunities that don't have a direct association with the university.
Yeah, I think the number might be smaller than you think, especially on the women's side. But either way, either way, they're saying the ones that have came out, the ones that are coming out, the ones that are staying in school, they're saying the reason they are is because they know that based on NIL and what they're able to get in college, they're making more in college than they are in the pros. Some may not worry about it. Like I said, someone like Caitlin Clarke, she's going to be able to get the jersey sales, right? She's that star.
Mm-hmm.
We have one, maybe two come out every year that you feel like is going to be that star and they're going to transcend things and maybe make a little bit more. But for the most part, you know, a lot of those girls fall through the cracks or they don't get the same opportunities, at least early in their careers. But the ones that do, they still have a learning curve. All right, so Chris says NIL is still too new to really know a lot, but I believe Angel Reese's deal with Reebok will follow her to the pros. Yes, a possibility. A deal like that would. But if you look at a lot of those deals for ladies that are signing them in the WNBA, again, way less than what they would be on the other side. But there are going to be examples where you can get on with the right opportunities. But again, you're pointing out Angel Reese for that. How many of the other ladies are in a position where they have that? And the reason being is Angels play on the court isn't always the best, right? But nobody is. but she's crafted herself as a social media influencer, as someone that you know, someone that you see. She does bikinis, she takes trips with her boyfriend, she does a lot of things that are sponsored. So she's someone that you know, she's someone that's recognizable. And that's great. And I hope that more women follow that and understand that, right? If you do those things, even if you may not be the best player on your team, I'm not saying that she's not, but I'm saying even if you may not be the best player on your team, if you have that presence, if you have that pizzazz, and you're still on a good team, you can make that pay for you.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. We all know that your play on the court is important, but superstars and brand names are not built on the court. Like, you can't be garbage, but as long as you're at least above average, the media and these companies, they can mold your image and make anybody they want into a star.
Yep. Absolutely would agree with that. So we also heard something come back up that came up around the trade deadline. And that was LeBron James being traded possibly to the Warriors. Obviously, he didn't want to do it. We talked about that here. But it came back up because there were a couple of people that said, man, if this happened, then you know that Golden State would win a championship if they were to bring in LeBron James. Talking about it the last couple of days on panels, like, would they win a championship with LeBron? So, of course, Draymond Green, yeah, we win. He was on a podcast. Carmelo Anthony was also on there. Carmelo said no. Carmelo said no because he said, what are you going to give up in order to get LeBron? Right? You people act a lot of times like, man, you take LeBron and you put him on Golden State and you got Clay. He can play a little bit more of a support role. You know, you got this guy that can do this. You got that guy that can do this. Those guys are going to have to go back to bring in LeBron. The Lakers are not going to take 2 first-round picks and 1 weak player. And that's it. Like, you have to have a lot going on. And that's where I think people don't realize that movement. I actually agree with Carmelo. I'll let my coach tell you his thoughts in a minute, but I actually agree with Carmelo. You're not going to have the core nucleus of that team. Clay's going to have to go. I always forget. Kuminga's going to have to go. Draft picks are going to have to go, and somebody else. You're going to give up a lot of pieces to bring on LeBron. So you're not taking LeBron and putting him on the same team. And this is the argument a lot of times why teams don't make these deals for stars. This is in any sport. If you're going to bring in a star player, you're giving up a lot to get him. And especially in a sport like basketball where you have 5 starters. Right? So you have to mix around the pieces. You're having to play with how everything rolls and flows together. And that doesn't always match. So, sir, what are your thoughts on that?
So here's my thing. I mean, first of all, I think it's a good point to say that, you know, it's not going to be the exact same thing. You're obviously going to have to give up pieces. But I'm going to go so far as to say that even if it were a matter of you could just pick LeBron up, transport him over there, and give up nothing but maybe some draft picks and some cash, right? You didn't have to send back a single player, so he was going to the exact same roster. They're still not good enough to win the championship. So the answer is no either way. I mean, I'm not trying to be dismissive of the guys on Golden State or overhype any of the Lakers, because I've told you before, I think both teams are very mediocre at the moment. But it's not as if the supporting pieces around LeBron now are less than what he would have around him in Golden State. The only player on Golden State right now that's an instant upgrade is Steph. Everybody else on that team is not even an instant upgrade of what he already has around him in LA.
There's no AD there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was about to say, and you don't have AD, who, I mean, granted, we all know street clothes Davis, right? But if
Not
he's
this year.
healthy, yeah, but if he's healthy, he's better than every single person outside maybe Steph in Golden State. So I don't even understand why this question will come up. To me, this is the dumbest question that anybody can ask. And I'm glad that whoever brought this up on national television or Facebook or wherever, I'm glad that I am not associated with those people.
Well, man, I feel like my co-host is holding back and not telling us everything on how he feels. But that can be bad for you internally, but something he's gonna have to work through. All right, so we got a couple comments here. So Damien, back to our last conversation, says sometimes you can build off of your name because of who you're related to. This is very true. You can get jobs, all kind of things because of that. So definitely agree you could use that. And there are some people that do that. And one of those is named LeBron James Jr. My man make over $5 million a year in NIL. And the math ain't mathing with his play right now, but again, had the heart conditions right before the season, so wasn't able to be at the tip-top condition.
Yeah.
Chris says this isn't 2K. It's not a plug-and-play. Chemistry plays a part in it. I think it would have hurt them. Maybe it works out next year, but you wouldn't have had instant gratification. That's a very good point. Damon says you can still keep some of these players if you restructure their contracts. And to be honest, if the Warriors do get rough of Clay, I don't think it would be a big loss because, let's be real, he hasn't been the same since his injury. Well, it's not about the contract, sir. It's about what you're going to have to give up.
Yeah.
So, again, you might have missed part of it. But in order for LeBron, for instance, for that trade to have happened, Kuminga, Clay, right, maybe Draymond, right, picks, you're going to have to give up a large amount of capital and players and picks to get LeBron. So that's going to hinder you now when moving forward. If that was something that could have happened. Obviously, it wasn't going to happen, but just hypothetically speaking.
Yeah. And especially you would have to think about the fact that if you talk about Clay, the Lakers are going to be like, Clay hasn't been Clay.
Yeah, you can throw him in, but I mean, he's not going to be a needle mover.
Yeah, they've seen the film. They know. So it's going to take a lot.
Yeah. Because Austin Reeves is playing like a better version of Clay right now.
Yeah.
And I can honestly see why LeBron didn't want to make that move because you're in a better position where you're at. Real talk.
He is.
I mean, you talking about upgrade me, maybe, but at best, a lateral move.
I mean, I do just want to throw out real quick, I mean, we are a little bit mediocre this year. I don't have dreams of a championship here, but it was nice to watch us get that comeback victory over the Clippers the other night. It was very satisfying for me. Anytime we beat the Clippers, it's very satisfying.
I'm not going to knock you for that. I'm not going to knock you at all for that, sir. I actually did get to see a part of that. And Kawhi, I will say this. And, Kawhi is one of the guys I like because I like his game. Kawhi, you have to show up in all four quarters, sir. You can't show up in the first three and then say, 4 quarters, y'all's.
Well, I actually caught the fourth quarter, so I'm taking like pretty much full credit for the comeback. Because basically the comeback started when I tuned in, so I'm just taking credit.
Do you? I'm just saying, Kawhi, fourth quarter, your team needs you. Just not just this game, but like throughout the season, playoffs, all that. Like they're gonna need you to show up in the fourth quarter. You're supposed to be their best player.
The claw.
You got to put the claw on in the fourth quarter. You can't take it off and run away in the fourth. Can't do that, bro. All right. So Chris says at least 2 firsts with 1 unprotected and a player. They might have to do a 3-way just to get enough of a return. 2 and a player? Nah, that's not even going to be close. And here's the question. We always talk about the 3 ways. Who's going to help you land LeBron James?
Yo. Let's be honest. LeBron's involved, Golden State's involved, and the Lakers are involved. Finding a third team that wants to facilitate helping any of those 3 parties is going to be difficult.
Right. And then Damien says LeBron should go to Miami. LeBron's not going to go to Miami. You know why LeBron's not going to go to Miami? 2 words for you: Hemi Butler.
Yep.
That's Hemi team. But
LeBron ain't going nowhere, man. LeBron has settled in.
the only time LeBron leaves is if something happens with Bronny, and Bronny's going somewhere, and then he like, all right, let me go play with Bronny. Like, I think that's honestly the only reason that he would leave LA.
But at this point, he just go ahead and have LA sign Bronny as a unrestricted free agent.
Well, Bronny's not going to come to the league this year. It's going to be at least a year down the road from this year, so he's going to at least have 2 years in college. He's going to have to, show more on the college level, and he definitely can. It's not a point of if he can or not. He just didn't have an opportunity to this season because of the cardiac arrest situation and everything that happened right before the season, and then having to come back once the season started. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, when you have anything that stops your training, stops your development, stops you being part of the team, and you have to work your way back in, that's hard to do that within the process. And college basketball is not NBA. You don't have 82 games. So he's been good on defense. He's made some buckets, but just more consistency, more comfort. And he's a freshman. A lot of times when you're a younger player, it can take you some time. Doesn't matter where you're. It can take you some time to really give it the old college try.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we get from him next year. All right. So Damian wants to add Lakers, Warriors, Knicks, or Hawks. All right. And then
even is that a question?
No, I think he's saying places that LeBron would play. I don't know why he puts the Hawks in there, or maybe places where Bronny would go, but I don't know why he puts the Hawks in there. Nobody wants to go to the Hawks. Knicks, big city, always could be intriguing. Chris says people forget why he wanted to go to LA in the first place. He wanted to be in Hollywood, unless he guarantees he's going to get a ring. I doubt he ever leaves. Like I said, I think the only time he would leave is to play with his son, and his son might end up in LA, so it might not even matter. But I'm just saying, I think that's the only way he would realistically be like, I will entertain stepping away from where I'm at.
Yeah, and let's be honest, if he really wants his son to come to LA, they would have no problem making sure everybody in the league know that his son's not gonna play for anybody else.
So you're trying to say he's gonna pull Archie Manning? That's what you're saying around these parts?
I mean, I'm just saying he could pull any number of people that you want to use as an example, but
Archibald Manning,
he definitely one of them.
That to me is like the most known case of somebody doing that, right? Like, it's like, come on, Archibald. Did we even have to get down like that?
He said, "Yo, couch."
He made sure that Eli won't go on where he didn't want Eli to go. I ain't even mad at him. All right, so the combine's still a little fresh, but we've had a couple of positions go. We'll talk a little bit about the combine. So we haven't had the quarterbacks work out, but we've had some interviews. So in your most humblest of opinions, sir, who do you think, how would you rank the top 5? We can even really do 4 quarterbacks as of now. I mean, obviously, we know you're right. Caleb Williams is not going to change because he's not going to do anything. He won't even release his medicals. But the other guys that are there, as far as the top quarterbacks coming out, how would you rank those guys?
So are we talking about just my personal?
Your personal, sir.
Okay.
You can rank whoever you want, wherever you want. We'll just say the top 5. Whoever you want, wherever you want.
Yeah. So for me, the guy I've been the highest on for months now is Jaden Daniels. To me, that's my number 1 quarterback. I'm probably going Drake May at 2. I'll put Caleb Williams at 3. I like Penix from a talent standpoint, but his injury history scares me a lot. I actually like Bo Nix after that, and then I probably will go J.J. McCarthy. And if we're just talking about talent, I probably have Penix at 4, But with the injury concerns, that's why I got him slotted behind those guys.
So I'm gonna do Caleb Williams at 1, but very slightly. I'm gonna go Jaden Daniels at 2. I'm gonna throw Drake May in at 3. I'm gonna put Michael Penix Jr. at 4, and I'll put Bo Nix at 5. The main reason I have Caleb Williams at 1 is because I feel like whoever has the number 1 pick, whether it's Chicago or whether it's somebody else, they're going to be enamored with the possibilities of what he can do, and they're going to draft him. If you ask me who I think the best actual quarterback is in this draft, I would go Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
because he can make all the throws.
That's what I thought we were doing was saying like who we like not who we think is going to get drafted first, but who we like.
Well, it's who we like, but I think Jaden Daniels is the best overall quarterback. He can make all the throws. He can run, but there is one issue with Jaden Daniels that you don't have with Caleb Williams, and this is why I end up rating Caleb Williams over him. Jaden Daniels makes some cavalier plays, and what I mean by that is he takes a lot of hits that he doesn't need to take. That's something that you can always argue you can coach out of him, but we haven't coached it out of him yet. So if I'm making my rankings, one of the things that I'm looking at is who's going to be available, because the best ability we always talk about is availability.
Yeah.
So I think that what separates Williams and Daniels for me is Williams plays a more conservative style. He's going to have to grow as a quarterback, I think. Probably has the highest ceiling. But as far as a guy who could come in and be ready to play right now, I think Jaden Daniels is a better fit. But because he takes hits that he doesn't necessarily have to take by some of the choices he makes when he runs, and these NFL players start seeing you do that and start like figuring out how to get you in those situations, you're going to spend a lot of time with the clipboard with a body part in a cast or on the injury report sitting down with a clipboard. So to me, that's the determining factor between those two guys.
Yeah, I'll say it like this. I don't think there's any quarterback in this draft that feels to me like a CJ Stroud or a Joe Burrow. Right. I just don't think we have that in this draft class. I think that, you have to kind of look at each of these guys and say they all have flaws. For me, my knock on Caleb Williams is he does not throw with anticipation at all. He waits for his guys to come open until he throws the ball. And in the NFL, those are pick sixes.
Fair enough. Definitely fair enough. So we're just starting to get a lot of the guys for the combine. Basically right now we got like corners, safeties, linebackers, and tight ends, I believe, that have gone so far. So of who's gone so far yet, I figure we just go through some of the main things and talk about a couple of people here. So 40-yard dash. Nate Wiggins from Clemson, 4.28. I'm going to do all the people under a 4.4 for cornerbacks. Quinion Mitchell, cornerback from Toledo, 4.33. DeCameron Richardson from Mississippi State, a 4.34. Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn, 4.36. Jarian Jones from your Florida State Seminoles, a 4.38. Daquan Hardy from Penn State, a 4.38. DeAndre Price with a 4.38. And Max Milton from Rutgers with a 4.39. So we've got a lot of the cornerbacks that are, running sub 4.4 40s. And in safety, the best safety so far has been Dadrian Taylor Demerson from Texas Tech. He ran a 4.41. Any of those names stick out to you?
I mean, there's a few guys that, have already been kind of getting a little bit of hype coming in. A couple of them I'm familiar with just from getting to actually see them play, right? So obviously Nate Wiggins is one of the the top names right now at corner. He did actually pull a hip flexor. He ran so fast, but that should actually heal up pretty quick. So not too much of a concern there. Um, Obviously, I'm familiar with my Florida State guy, but um, I think he's more of a later pick. I don't think he's necessarily going to be like one of those early first round guys. So, you know, I I kind of look at 40s from the standpoint of it's cool to look at and see some of these guys who are really fast, but I more look at, is there somebody that we expected to run faster and they ran a much slower time, or is there somebody who really surprised us with their speed? Um, and I don't really feel like there was too many surprises.
Okay. So we'll go over to safety with the 40. Had a few people under a 4.5. So we'll go over those guys real quick. So Millard Bradford from TCU had a 4.42. Jalen Simpson from Auburn had a 4.45. Cole Bishop from Utah had a 4.45. Tyke Smith from Georgia had a 4.46. Javon Bullock from Georgia had a 4.47. And then Caleb Bullock from USC had a 4.48. Now, I want to say we need some safety help on my professional team. There's two guys from Georgia there. We love Georgia players, so let's connect some dots here. Maybe one of those guys will end up in some green next year. I'm going to go ahead and say it before somebody else does. But what are your thoughts on those top guys? Anybody there surprise you? Or is that pretty status quo for that? Cole Bishop, I think, kind of makes me look like, okay, I didn't know he was quite that swift in the 40, but, it's just me.
Yeah, man, this is probably a group that you know of more about than I do. I didn't really get a chance to watch the safeties, and knowing that my team probably was not going to need a safety this year, I really haven't paid too much attention to the safeties in college just yet. I'll obviously kind of dig into them between now and the draft. But as of right now, I haven't really looked at them enough to form an opinion on any of those guys.
Well, I know you've looked at some of the tight ends.
Uh,
So
you know,
we only
but,
had one
but,
tight end.
but mostly ones that we're not going to be able to draft.
Yeah, we only had one tight end under a 4.5, and that was Devin Culp of the guys that ran. And then obviously, with the tight ends, not everybody ran or not everybody has finished as of yet. So I think that's one of the positions they're doing now.
Yeah.
But so far, we've just got one guy under a 4.5, and that's Devin Culp from Washington. All right. And I believe we also had linebackers. And definitely paying attention to linebackers as well, because we need like 5 of those. So for the linebackers, we'll just do like the top 5 here. They don't really fall into the category. All right, so number 1, not a surprise at all to me, Peyton Wilson from NC State at a 4.43. Your guy, Kalen DeLoach, Florida State, 4.47. Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M, 4.51. Trevin Wallace from Kentucky, 4.51 as well. Jordan McGee from Temple, 4.55. And Edifun Ulufosio from Washington, 4.56. And I may have butchered that a little bit, but it'll be okay. Any thoughts on the linebacker, sir?
You know, again, this is a group I haven't looked a lot at, but I can tell you, Kalen DeLoach is one of those guys who came back to school and really worked on his game and got a lot better this past season. His recognition, his ability to shed tackles and to explode onto a ball carrier when a hole opened up are all things that dramatically improved for him this year. So uh, excited to see that he had a great combine.
Yep. I know that Philadelphia has been looking at Edgerrin Cooper. We're probably not going to be in a position to get Peyton Wilson or Kalen DeLoach. But Edgerrin Cooper's a guy that may be there when we draft. as well as Edifuan Ulafosio. He's another guy. Does a lot of the things that you want to see a guy do on tape. Will be interesting to see like all the positions in the combine, how everything goes to the combine. And we're going to dig more into this over the next few weeks. So we'll continue to talk about, the next week. Once everything happens with the combine, we'll be able to talk a little bit more deep into that. But just wanted to at least kind of talk a little bit about what's happening, with the combine.
Yeah. And Christopher brings up a really good point too, about safeties.
Yeah, a couple of comments here. We'll start with Chris's about safety. So Chris says, with safeties, I'm not too concerned with 40 times. I'm more concerned with their shuttle and cones. How are their hips? Can they get out of breaks easily? This is true. One of the things that I'm concerned with safeties, the cones and the shuttle are good, but I like to see when they do the actual drills, where they kind of have to like guard people, push people, move people, how they perform in those drills. Um, I also like to see how they are up here. And obviously get that from interviews and from seeing the tape, because getting out of breaks easily, absolutely. Hips, absolutely. But if you get a guy who's okay at those things, maybe doesn't excel, but is okay at those things, but he understands the game and he will give you the wood. Oh, I want him. I like wood layers.
Not, touch, not even touching that one, sir.
Hey, sir. There was another one I could give you that was said that you would really be like, I ain't touching, but I'm not even gonna do it. I saw a comment earlier that somebody did. I was like, wow.
Not even messing with you at all right now, sir.
So Damien said, "Oh, he says no. I mean the three-way. Because the Hawks trying to get rid of Murray, so why not have Lakers, Warriors, and Hawks in a three-way trade? But who really wants Murray?
I mean, the fact that you brought up wood and then three ways in like a 10-second span, so I can't with you right now.
I'm gonna need you to be better, sir. I'm gonna need you to be better.
Just can't with you, sir.
So Chris says Williams, Daniels, May, Knicks, Penix, and then JJ. All right. Damien says, God, I hope the Bears will trade the number 1 pick already, because I swear if we draft Caleb, I'm going to need Bell. Well, you might want to get that Bell ready, sir, because it's a good possibility that's going to happen. And then Damien says, Eagles should pick up Eddie Jackson for free agency. I think he can help y'all at safety. The only problem is he is injury prone. Well, I don't want another injury prone guy because we have 2 injury prone safeties now. So I will definitely pass on a 3rd injury prone safety. And then AP says, if Texans get Barkley, they're a Super Bowl favored. I definitely wouldn't say that. Because Barkley, if you read the last 2 words of what Damien said, injury prone. So I don't know if it would make as much of a difference because of him being, an injury prone guy. I mean, it looks great on paper, right? And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of moves that people can make to look great on paper, like Eddie Jackson, right? That Damien's talking about. Looks great on paper, but you have to go out there and perform. You have to go out there and stay healthy. You have to go out there and contribute to your team. And while a lot of teams believe that they have the facilities and this and then they can take guys that are hurt a lot and make them better, we see it be pretty consistent. If your guy that gets hurt, you normally get hurt everywhere you go. If your guy doesn't get hurt, you normally stay healthy. Anybody can get hurt, but if you have a pattern of getting hurt, it's likely you're going to continue that pattern.
Yeah, I'm going to just say in regards to AP's comment, I mean, I understand why people might get excited about an addition like that. And of course, you would have to assume that if he stayed healthy, right? But you're talking about becoming a Super Bowl favorite by adding Barkley in a conference that already has Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, that already has Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. We all saw the strides that Lamar took this year. A guy in Joe Burrow that's going to come back and be able to play next season, right? So you're looking at some of the teams that's out there, and you're saying they're going to be the Super Bowl favorites. I can't go that far.
Yeah, it would be hard to go there. So Damien says Texans would have a better chance with Henry than Saquon.
I
See, that's
mean,
the
if
thing.
I'm the Texans, I'm drafting a running back if I want a running back.
Or
I'm
keep
not
who you have.
I'm not paying for either one of these injury prone older guys.
You have a solid guy that's there. I mean, like we always talk about, oh, let's put this piece on, but sometimes just keep what you have and work together. Like it's not always a need for another running back that's going to put you over the top. It's very rarely, in my opinion, that a running back is going to put you over the top. There's a couple of backs that you like to make your team better. Like y'all have one CMC. If we decide to do something smart and re-sign DeAndre Swift, I think he's one of those guys that can be a difference maker. But I think there's a lot of guys that you don't necessarily have to have like a guy that's a tier running back, right? You don't have to have a Saquon Barkley. You don't have to have a CMC. You don't have to have, those type of guys. You can get by with having guys that can get yards when you need them, give you somewhere between 8 and 1,000 yards a season, have less carries because you're going to rely on passing game. Like Cincinnati, for instance. Would it make sense for them to go out and get Derrick Henry? No. They're going to throw the ball most of the time.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Does it make sense to go out and get a Derrick Henry? Possibly. But if Kellen Moore comes in and coaches anything like last year, no. I wouldn't come here. I would run from Philadelphia. Because you're not going to give me the touches. So it just all depends on team scheme, what they're going to do in the passing game, if they're a grinded team, if they're trying to throw for 4,000 yards. And then also, there's one team where you're always going to be better on because you can face mask people, kick people, run over people, hold people, do whatever you want because the referees also help them.
Yes, they do.
So I'm not going to call out the name of a team.
Look, I'm not gonna say them by name, but I will just say that over 3 Super Bowls, they have not had a single holding penalty. If that gives it away, so be it. But
So AP says, who really believes in Lamar Jackson? Well, the MVP voters, 2 guys on this panel, a whole lot of Ravens fans. There's a lot of people that believe in Lamar Jackson.
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like there's this trend nowadays, right, where like a guy struggles in a playoff situation or has some bad games, and all of a sudden the narrative becomes, oh, they can't get it done.
Wait a minute. You say he struggles where?
In playoff games.
What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Well, there's our copyright strike for the week. So, but people like to go on and be like, oh, they can never win the big game. It just means that they haven't. I mean, let's be honest. For whatever reason, Baltimore completely went against everything that had worked for them all season long in that game. They just abandoned it. And I don't know if that was Lamar. I don't know if that was coaching. I don't know if it was people thinking that he was going to outsmart everybody or what happened. But they clearly did not play the game that they have played all year long.
Fair enough. I'll give the rest of you podcasters out there a quick hint. Don't ever say the C word on your own podcast. It's not a wise idea. And for the combine, did you have any other thoughts on that? And also, any trade rumors that you may have heard from the combine?
I haven't really been paying much attention to too much of the trade rumors right now because most of what's out there right now is just guys posturing to get contracts or teams posturing to try to get guys to take pay cuts. So
Or
99
clickbait.
you hear right now is just garbage or clickbait. I think the one that is somewhat realistic that it could happen and is could be interesting because of the fact they have two guys that they need to sign is Kansas City with Snead. That one I think is legit that they are open to trading him because I don't think that they see a way they're going to be able to pay him and Chris Jones, even with the increase in the salary cap.
Hey, you would think so. I think that they're looking at which one of those guys they want to franchise, right? I think whoever they franchise is going to tell you a lot. Because I think whoever they franchise, truthfully, to me, whoever they franchise, they're going to try to trade.
Yeah, and that's why I think they're looking at franchising him and just hoping that they're going to be able to sign Chris Jones.
True. All right, so a couple more comments here. So Chris says Texas should draft Dylan Johnson from Texas and call it a day. He says, sorry, Washington, not Texas. And then AP says Washington don't need Henry. Boy. So I haven't seen this yet, Damien, because I want to stay focused. But Damien says, okay, sorry to change the subject. But in the Scarface, heck, rock wearing. I don't know what, but it's probably bad. AP says, what is Caleb Williams hide? So that's a good question, AP, and I appreciate you for asking that question because I wanted to get to that question and I don't have to. So for me, I think he's injured, right? And I think there's something in those records that could affect him. So he's not going to release them. And if I remember correctly, and I do a little research from time to time, right? I don't put it out there. I do a little research from time to time. This is the first guy that won't agree to have his medical records released. So what you're doing is you're saying, I want you to draft me with the first overall pick or the second overall pick, whatever, right? And give me the keys to your franchise. But I'm not going to throw for you. I'm not going to run for you. I'm not going to take a physical. And I'm not even going to let you have my medical records. Oh, and by the way, my dad's going to come talk to some of y'all about me being a partial owner, even though the collective bargaining agreement says that can't happen. I just think it's a cluster pluck for him. I personally think the best thing for Caleb Williams would have been to go back to college for another year. Just refine his game some. As my coach said, he doesn't really throw guys open. But, I mean, when you look at what's there, it's not to me the same level of multiple really good guys that we've had in the past. And he's been getting the hype since before the season started. As long as he didn't go out this past season and look like a piece of hot monkey garbage, monkey poo, he was going to be the number one pick. He knew that, and he didn't do that. Jaden Daniels outplayed him. There's no doubt about it. But that doesn't really matter unless it's the right team picking number one. Your thoughts, sir?
I mean, I agree that it does seem like that's the case, right? There's something going on, some kind of injury, something that maybe he's hoping is going to heal up by his pro day, and he'll go out there and do all stuff. Then it's becoming more and more common for a lot of these guys to not want to work out at the combine and do all the stuff their pro day because then they're throwing to receivers they're already comfortable with and all that kind of stuff, and it protects them a little bit more. We don't know how much of the stuff that we're hearing about with him this past year is true, but we've certainly heard enough things that it makes you question some aspects of his character a little bit too. And when you see things like, oh, I'm not going to release my medical records, I'm not going to work out, I'm not going to do this, it makes those things that you heard seem more true.
Agreed. Chris says Darren Waller has been thinking about retiring. Ayuk is still lobbying to get out of San Francisco. He also says they filed for the transition tag for Snead. I'll double check and look for that. The last time I looked a little while ago, they hadn't posted anything yet. I know there's been some rumors that they were going to tag Snead, but I haven't seen anything. Maybe you saw something I haven't. Damian says Caleb Williams is Hulk Hogan of the NFL. Everything has to be about him. He is nothing but a diva. That's every quarterback and wide receiver in the NFL. Shadura outplayed him, but he isn't eligible to come out this year. Well, actually, Shadura could have came out, but Deion told him he couldn't. Daddy said no. Shadura did outplay him. AP says Waller always injured. I'll retire too. True.
Yeah. So I'll just respond to one thing that Christopher said there. I haven't seen any new stuff come out about Ayuk in terms of him lobbying to get out.
I
So
knew you was going to say that.
yes, I don't know where you get he's still lobbying. The last thing I saw was he actually said he wanted to stay if things worked out right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this out now because I know it's gonna be a very long 5-6 months, and I'm gonna hear about this constantly. The 49ers have established a pattern. We do not give contract extensions to anyone until like July or August. Brandon Ayuk will get his extension in July or August. He's not going anywhere. That's going to basically be what I'm going to tell y'all for the next 5 months every time this gets brought up. I said it about Debo. I'm going to tell you right now.
So what we do know is that if it does come out that Ayuk does not sign, Chris scooped my co-host. But if that doesn't happen, somebody playing with Chris.
Well, he didn't say that he was. He said he's still lobbying to get out, and I'm just saying I haven't seen anything.
I'm just saying if it happens,
I'm just saying that wouldn't be a scoop, sir. Like you know.
Rod said, "What's up, fellas? What up, Rod?
What up?"
And AP says, "You want to put your house on the line? Laugh out loud." Everybody about to put their house on the line, bro. You wild.
I don't gamble, sir, but I do know that that's what's going to happen. And if any of y'all think that you're going to trade for him, by all means, send us your trade package with multiple first round picks in it.
I don't want to. I don't want to pay him.
Yeah, you also go ahead and send us a couple of first rounders and pay his salary. Go ahead.
I don't want you. I ain't give you no picks either.
Yeah. You want to send us 2 first rounders or a first and a second and a third, and yeah, we can make it happen. I won't even be mad.
It kind of sounds like he want him gone on the sneak tip.
I don't want him gone, but if you
want
to
low,
go ahead.
You're like, hey, if you want him, you gotta get him.
Yeah,
I know.
We're gonna rake you over the coals, but you gonna do it.
Damien says the polls get Ayuk. Who's the polls, sir?
He's talking about the GM in Chicago, sir.
Oh, got you. The GM in Chicago is a joke, by the way. This dude has no clue what's happening. He should have had to after his press conference. He should have had to have a conversation with ownership, and they should have been like, either you plan or don't holler at me. I'll holler at you. And if you're not familiar with what that means, in the words of Vince McMahon, you're fired. AP says Eagles are trade for Georgia players only or Alabama players. We do that too. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. Actually, y'all will only draft Georgia players. You'll trade for Alabama players.
Nah, we'll trade for Georgia players too. Swift we traded for. He's a Georgia player. OG Georgia, but he's still Georgia. You know. All right, so sir, before we get up out of here, just a couple more things to talk about here. So, we got college basketball running up through here. So theoretically, your top 8 teams will be your 1 and 2 seeds in the tournament, right?
I'll take your word for it, sir.
Yeah. So the way it works is basically your top 4 teams should be your 1 seeds.
Okay.
And then the next 4 should be your 2 seeds. So your top 8 teams. So I'm going to go off the top 8 teams we have now. We'll start with women's. I'll answer the question as well. Who do you think is going to win the Natty? Now, for women, we're going to do a little different because we know who we think is going to win the Natty. Do you think any of the other 7 teams outside of South Carolina that I'm going to give you stand a chance to beat South Carolina? And we're using the AP poll here, my good people. There's coaches poll and other polls or whatever. We're using the AP, Associated Press. So the AP poll has South Carolina number 1, of course, 27-0. And number 2, they have Ohio State. Number 3, Texas. Number 4, Stanford. Number 5, Virginia Tech. Number 6, Iowa. Number 7, USC. And number 8, UCLA.
I mean, I'm just gonna say no. I mean, look, we said that last year, and that's not what happened. So it can always happen, right? That somebody might come along and surprise us, but that team out there in South Carolina is built different, man.
Yeah, I'm going to actually agree with Damian and AP at the same time. So Damian says Iowa, which they would have a chance because, they got Caitlin Clarke. And AP says nobody beating South Carolina. So I agree with that to an extent, too. And why it's kind of playing both sides. Sometimes you got to play both sides if it's what's really real. I do see Texas might have a good shot. Stanford is a team that always plays well. I want to say Virginia Tech, but I just don't think they can score with them unless Virginia Tech can catch South Carolina on a game when they're shooting bad because they rely on depth, 3-point shooting, and, good coaching. They don't have like an all-star like they have in the past, like that one person. So that can be dangerous. But I think there's a couple that at least stand a chance, but no real, like, they're going to do it type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So then we're going to do the same thing with the men's side. But for the men, we're going to do it a little bit different. We're just going to ask top 8, who do you think can win? All right. So in the AP poll this week, and we're using the AP, of course, we've got Houston at number 1.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Purdue at number 2. UConn fell to 3. Tennessee at 4. Marquette at 5. Arizona at 6. Kansas at 7. And Iowa State at 8. So of those top 8 teams, which would be the 1 and 2 seeds, theoretically, who do you think is going to win the national championship or has a good opportunity to win the Natty?
I mean, I feel like, there's quite a few teams in there that actually have a pretty good chance, right? But I would narrow it down to UConn, Houston, and Purdue is my top 3. And I'm gonna actually go with UConn to go back to back.
I like UConn. I like Kansas. And I probably go with Purdue. Houston, I get it at number 1, but I feel like in a playoff, 1-game playoff type situation, I don't know if I see them really doing too much. Like, they're going to make it far, not a first or second round exit, but really winning a championship. I think UConn, Kansas, or Purdue would probably be my 3 out of these. And the team I really think was going to win did not quite make the top 8. They are number 9. So you guys suck for not being in the top 8 right now. I want to let you know that. Pick it up. Do better. And that's North Carolina.
Realistically, I think you probably can go as high as maybe even the top 15 and still be looking at teams who all have an opportunity if they get hot at the right moment and get the right matchups.
Matchups are important. So AP, wow. AP says they be drinking that moonshine. Drinking that moonshine, you built different. And look, and we ain't talking about that other moonshine. You talking about, I think AP talking about that moonshine straight out the old carburetor.
He talking about that one to put that hair on your chest.
Yeah, right out the old. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say the parts that they really use to make, because then people gonna think I know too much about it. So that's why I'm saying stuff like the carburetor. I know how it's made. I know you put do that right. We can go into that. He says Houston went all the way. I don't trust Houston, but you could be right. He says as long as Duke not in the top 5, I'm happy. My man. That's what I'm talking about. My man.
As long as you hating on Duke, you'll always have a fan and cool.
1,000. So yeah, man. Any other thoughts? Anything else you would like to discuss, my good man?
No, I mean, man, by the time we come back on the air next Friday, we will know for sure who all the franchise tags are. We'll try to dive into some real NFL rumors and trade talk and free agency and all that good stuff. So exciting times.
So when you say real and NFL rumors in the same sentence, I kind of give you the side eye, just because not a lot of them are real.
Well, when I say real, I mean like we'll start hearing some leaks about some people who have already been offered contracts that they weren't really offered yet, but
the moratorium period.
But they were.
Yes, sir. So no one would do such a thing as offer people contracts before they should, sir.
Yeah,
no one would do such a thing.
Yeah, they're rumors, but what they really are is they're facts that are being reported under the table. That's what they really are.
Or their teams reaching out to players via rumors to say, "Hey, well,
some they go on too now."
It does.
Like, you know what? We can't contact this player directly, but if you could put a report out there saying they're gonna come to us, that would be great.
And if we can get to such and such third cousin Pookie and let Pookie know to tell such and such that interested, Pookie just might get some fresh gear or some tickets. Just saying.
Dude said Pookie.
I did say Pookie. Everybody got a cousin Pookie. Y'all know it. So for me, man, I'm just excited. March Madness is coming. Ooh, can't wait. We're going to get into the conference tournaments here in the next few weeks. So there'll be a lot to talk about. A lot of things going on. And by the way, at some point, I am going to slide in Little Road to WrestleMania talk. It's going to happen. Just a little bit.
I'm here for it. We can do it. We can do it.
Happen. I just want to make sure that the people are aware it's coming. This ain't Monarchs, but we can slide in a Little Road to WrestleMania talk. Damien says, I'm in Mexico. We don't have a cousin named Pookie. You do.
You have a Mexican version of Pookie.
You know you do. Don't play.
You have a Mexican version of Pookie.
Right. You got a Pookie.
It's like it's not necessarily Pookie, right? Pookie's of a certain demographic. Sometimes Pookie's name is Bubba.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Mexican nicknames are, and I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm just gonna leave that one alone. I'm not even gonna risk that one. I'm just gonna leave that one alone. But I know that
Damien, you got a cousin. You got a cousin Jesus.
Yeah, there's a common nickname. There's a common nickname.
You don't. So you don't. You got one.
Also, just want to say, still a few months away, but thank goodness, college football is coming back to the video game systems.
We know I'm not buying college football. Who wants to play with Miami?
Because your team trash.
He says I do. Yeah, I know you do. I know who it is for everybody. I know.
Yeah. Everybody got one.
I know who it is for everybody. So if you, I know everybody's. But good people, appreciate y'all tuning in this week. So, a couple of things here. First thing is always make sure you tell 2 of your friends and 4 of your enemies to come through and check us out. Also, make sure you share, like, and sub if you haven't already to the channel. Make sure you tell your people to come through and check us out. And this is something new that I'll be telling you guys every week, wherever you see me at. It's never how you start. It's always how you finish. And with that, your boys are out. We'll see you back next week. And we good.